this play that we're making right now, or our country is making, is basically a play for the next century. If we lay out the game board here, we have the United States on one side and we have China on the other side. And there are other players in the game as well, but they're all connected between the United States and China, which are the two mega players in the game, if we're being objectively honest, right? So, looking at the game board, China has been saturating it. I have a picture here. I'll put it up on the screen. So, since COVID to present day, China has been saturating the entire game board. And obviously, this is not necessarily a good thing whenever you play it over a long enough time horizon, mainly because China has publicly stated that their goal is to take territory, but not with bullets, but with information technology. They're not a violent actor, but they are an actor. And their goal is to, over the next century potentially, or many, many decades, have market saturation, and then have information technology saturation, and then be able to basically have the future generations brought up in the current Chinese Communist Party regime, which I don't think any of us really want. Which is why Trump is really trying to stir the pot right now. Because, obviously, since about 79 years ago, we haven't made a single large breakthrough in physics, and the government actually, the government decided to classify entire sections of physics, entire sections of mathematics, and from that point forward, they started to do that with a lot more things. We have a bureaucratic regulatory state of a government, or we've had one for quite a while, that has been building up slowly over 70 years. And as it's been doing that, the West as at large has been slowly decaying at a very slow pace. So it's hard to notice for most people who aren't really paying attention, but we have been decaying over 70 years. Now we have $36 trillion in debt. We're spending $6 trillion per year, but only bringing in $4 trillion per year, meaning we're adding $2 trillion to our debt year over year, not including the interest. So we're compounding and killing ourselves very quickly, which isn't necessarily good, as you can imagine, especially considering that we are the largest force in the West to ensure democratic values persist. China, obviously, we saw the little chart here, has been saturating the market. Their goal is to take over the world with information technology. They publicly, like Xi Jinping publicly stated this. And it's not that they're like being violent about it. They're just playing good chess. They're playing really good chess. And because of the bureaucratic regulation over almost a century in the United States, our chess hasn't been able to be played, which is unfortunate. So what we're trying to do right now is we're trying to disrupt China and knock them off their course. Otherwise, if this continues, we do end up in a one world China communist regime over a long enough time horizon. Or if not, if we don't end up there, we have a massive conflict such as World War III that will eventually take place because the West will finally wake up, realize what is happening while it's too late, and we'll have to fight for our lives. So either we become a communist regime over a very long period of time because of China playing good chess, or we wake up and we have World War III. Or the next option is we try to prevent that while we have short-term leverage. We are in a place where we have short-term leverage as a country called the United States. Very short term, but we do have a lot of leverage right now. We have a lot of leverage in the world, but we are dwindling as we have already discussed. The more we dwindle, the less leverage we have. Okay, so we just laid out a bunch of stuff. Let's run back through the list. So for one, China is slowly saturating the globe. Their goal is to saturate the markets with information technology so that they can use those technologies to propagate their values and control history. Whoever controls the past controls the future. If you go talk with DeepSeek, it leaves out very important historical events intentionally. Why? So the Chinese Communist Party can control the future, right? Freedom of speech and communism don't really go together, which is why they don't have it. Okay? So we have them trying to saturate more and more of the world with information technology so that they can have a totalitarian regime over everybody in the future. And by the way, they don't see it like that. That's how we see it in the West because we like democracy. Anyways, now we have the United States, who has been decaying over 70 years. The system of the federal government has been becoming more and more and more corrupt over 70 years, and nobody has really been paying attention. This is also a fact. We currently have short-term leverage as the United States. Short-term, one, because it has been decaying, and two, because we are entering a fundamentally new paradigm. I'll get to that in a second. So currently, we have the world reserve currency with the US dollar, which gives us leverage. We are the number one consumer on Earth, especially of Chinese products, which gives us leverage. And we have the biggest military force on Earth, which gives us leverage. So we have a temporary point of leverage. We are in a state of decay. Now, we also have a fundamentally new paradigm emerging from the technologies that we are creating, such as energy technologies, potentially like nuclear fusion. Fission is coming back online. Those types of technologies are going to be carrying energy production forward. By the way, China is producing way more energy than the United States right now. So that's number one, energy. The next is intelligence. We are manufacturing intelligence, and China is also manufacturing intelligence too. They're not too far behind us, actually. If you look at energy, intelligence, and labor, and materials, those are the four first principles that make up a civilization. You cannot reduce it to a more foundational first principle layer, right? Like these are the first principles that make up all of civilization. We're entering a period in time where every single one of these principles will be automated and we'll be able to manufacture intelligence and labor for the very first time ever, right? So whoever owns the means of production, whoever owns the manufacturing, whoever does that can be completely self-dependent. They don't have to rely on geopolitical global trade anymore. We've never had this paradigm before. This is what most people get wrong. Whenever they're analyzing the current situation, they analyze it with the old paradigm. We're entering a fundamentally new paradigm. China has most of the energy, all of the manufacturing, they have AI, they have materials, they have all of these really good things where they're going to be self-reliant. They're not going to need global trade, and just the pace of the technology will take them to the stars. We, in the West, have AI. We have some robotics that are coming. We are working on the energy thing. We are working on the materials thing. The big thing we're missing is the manufacturing. If you don't have manufacturing, you are missing an entire pillar, like an entire category of civilization. The first principles aren't there, meaning China has our leverage. They have leverage over us in the future that we are spiraling towards. It's not here yet. The paradigm that we live in today is temporary. The paradigm that we are heading towards, China will win, which is why we're taking actions today to try to prevent China from getting there. All of these tariffs are doing is trying to force China off of their course. And what I would love to see is, since we have put tariffs on everybody, which there's different points of view on that, but what I would love to see is for us to negotiate with our allies, establish free trade with our allies, and then have all of them put tariffs on China. We all put tariffs on China. We all establish free trade of ourselves, and we can actually win this pretty easily. Like, that would end the entire possibility of World War III. Like, it wouldn't happen. There would not be a possibility of it happening. But if this goes wrong, we are at risk. Let's just put it that way. We're playing a risky game. I'm going to be very honest. This is a risky game. But the stakes are also very risky if we don't do it. If we don't do it, it's very risky. If we do it, it's very risky. We're just in a risky time. Like, that's as simple as it is. We are living in the most crazy time to be alive in all of human history. We are living in the most crazy time to be alive. And we need to play smart, but we also need to play hard. And that is just the truth. Again, I'm not trying to pick a side here. I'm just trying to make an objective analysis of the current geopolitical landscape from a game theoretic position. Like, not everything is going to be beautiful. That's for damn sure, and it's going to continue to be that way. So it's bigger than It's bigger than the stock market. Way bigger than the stock market. It's bigger than free trade. Way bigger than that. Everything that we're doing right now is about having power dynamics for the next century, or potentially centuries, or potentially for the rest of human existence. That's the stakes. I don't know how else to frame it. Like, that is objectively where we're at. Now, let's talk about what if this doesn't work, because that is an option. What if this doesn't work? Balaji actually predicted this, or he didn't predict that this would happen, but he predicted the idea that I'm about to display. So Donald Trump is obviously a Bitcoin maximalist. He thinks we should be hedging heavily with Bitcoin. And he's trying to make the United States the crypto capital of the country. I actually think he just said that today, as I'm recording this video. He wants the United States to be more focused on Bitcoin. I think he sees what I'm seeing. The United States has been becoming more and more corrupt over the past 70 years, right? Ever since we classified entire sections of math and physics, we have been slowly becoming a massive regulatory state with a bunch of corruption. I hate to say it, but the reality is you cannot, reduce corruption in a system that has become overly corrupt, right? Like, you have to incept an entirely new system. You have to invent a new one from scratch. It's really hard to rejuvenate a system with corruption, especially given a fundamentally changing paradigm that we're entering. So, in the logical conclusion of all of this, like, if you play it out to the theory of constraints, it's going to be the Bitcoin network versus China. It's going to be the sovereign individual who has decentralized currency, decentralized technology, versus the centralized communist dictator regime. That's where we're heading right now. And I don't know if it's exactly going to play out that way. There's a possibility that it doesn't, but it seems like if you play out the theory of constraints, that's the final end game, the end state of where this is headed. If we implement these tariffs and they work the way we want them to, we could prevent that. I still think we'll get to the Bitcoin network, because that seems like just a logical thing to do, like the Bitcoin network state or some form of network state overtaking like the current regime and the way of doing things. I think it's inevitable to happen eventually. It's just, I don't see any way around it. But if we can move China off of their trajectory, we are in a better position. Let's just put it that way for the future. This is going to be like a video that has like a bunch of different people's opinions in the comments. You can leave your opinion in the comments if you want to, or if you want to call me an idiot, that's fine. If you think I got everything wrong, that's fine. Let me hear it. I think this is objectively obvious, and most people are just approaching the problem. I hit the mic. Most people are approaching the problem with a frame for a world that hasn't existed in over a decade. We're going to a new world. You need to approach it with a new frame. And the frame is that we need to be a self-relying country that doesn't need global trade to prevail and exist. I do want global trade to happen at some extent, simply because it keeps conflict from happening. If you have global trade, it keeps big conflicts from happening. But you also have to be self-reliant. Otherwise, you will have somebody who is self-reliant having massive leverage over you. China is becoming self-reliant. We need to become self-reliant. That's the entire picture. It's nothing but that. If you're thinking of something besides that, I don't know if you're correct, genuinely. I think you have inferences that are probably accurate at some level. In the bigger picture, that doesn't matter.